Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Post-game show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post-game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
Well. Welcome into the show, everybody. Christmas Eve edition. Marc Farzetta along with you, as well as Eagles Hall of Famer Seth Joyner and Derek Gunn, veteran Eagles reporter. We are all in our remote studios, or at least you guys, you seem to be in your normal remote studios. Me, I'm at Joey and Eleanor's. I'm at Mom and Dad's for Christmas Eve. We do the big 7-fish dinner every year. I got smelts on the stove. I might have to run in and out of the shot. But, how do I miss the opportunity to break down the birds, especially Eagles, Cowboys, and the JAKIB Media pregame show with you fine gentlemen. Seth, that is your home studio, no?
That's my home studio, man. It is so good to be home. It's been a while, especially given the fact that it's like below 10 degrees in the Delaware Valley area, and it is well over 60 degrees and sunny here in Arizona. Glad to be home.
Listen to this guy. And Gunner, I'm sure you're going to be you have like 17 people living with you just normally for like Christmas, the holidays. You're going to have like 50 people running in and out of the shot. How's it going to work at the Gunner household?
Well, see, most of them are out of the house for now or will be out of the house. The only thing I have to concern myself with is the 3 dogs barking. So luckily, one is behind closed doors. The other 2 are crated. So hopefully none of them have learned the art of escaping. But Seth, growing up in the Midwest, weather like this today is a heat wave. 9 degrees, 10 degrees. This is a heat wave. Having grown up in Wisconsin off that Lake Michigan, that hawk blowing off Lake Michigan. So, I can go outside with a T-shirt and shorts. No, I'm lying. I ain't going outside.
Enjoy it. All I can say is enjoy it because, I grew up back east in New York, so I know what that cold weather is like, but I want no parts of it.
I don't blame you. My brother who lives in the Phoenix area also, all he does is text me, hey, it's 68 degrees here. What do you do? I'm like, shut up. Just shut up. Okay?
Just like normal holiday family love and tradition. It's beautiful. I do want to say, of course, the JAKIB Media pregame show today is brought to you by our friends at Thrive Financial Services. Get Thrive Financial Services retirement playbook. Go to thrivefinancialservices.com. John McMullen will join us in the next segment for Birds 365, our JAKIB Media NFL insider, and he'll be joining us from his home studio as well, brought to you by Thrive. But fellas, I know we always end the show with predictions, and we are going to do that. So without tipping our hand a little too much, maybe, I just want to take a temperature of you guys, because I look at a lot of different things going into this game. But one of the things that really jumps out to me is how close the Eagles and the Cowboys have played to this point. When you talk about a number of statistical categories these teams are close in, 1-2 in sacks in the NFL, 1-2 in turnover differential, 1-2 in takeaways, 1-2 in red zone scoring, 3-4 in points scored, 6-7 in points allowed. That's how close these teams are. They're separated by 19.1 points per game allowed and 19.2 points per game allowed. So I look at how close they are and I say, all right, well, you know what? Take away the MVP candidate, Jalen Hurts, and there's no way the Eagles have a chance to win this game. Yet I am actually pretty confident the Birds are going to come away with a victory. So, Seth, I'll start with you. Just confidence-wise going into this game, are you confident that the Eagles will at least make a great game of this matchup?
Yes, because, the Eagles are a complete football team. Now, Jalen Hurts is a big part of what they do. He's been spectacular running the football. He's been as spectacular, in my opinion, throwing the football and managing the offense. But when I look at the totality of these two teams, the Eagles have probably had maybe 1 or 2 games where they've been just off and look bad, as a collective team. The Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott has really got to be reeling at the moment. His confidence has really got to be shaken the way he's played over the last 4 or 5 weeks. And he's only played 10 games, 9 or 10 games. I believe he's got 10 interceptions in 9 games. So something's off, something's amiss. And when you play like that, it does mess with your confidence. And in classic Cowboy fashion, they got away with it the week before, 2 weeks before. But it bit them in the behind last week with Jacksonville coming back. And I just feel like they're just an accident waiting to happen. They're just a play away from making the most critical mistake that will place the game firmly in the Eagles' hands. Now, I don't think that this will be a blowout. I think this game will be close all the way through. And I'll give you my prediction a little bit later.
Okay, there we go. All right, keep the cliffhanger going there. Gunnar, confidence level looks like Seth and I are pretty confident in an Eagles victory today. Where are you hovering around without giving your official prediction?
Well, I think this game's the heartbeat of this game is in the trench warfare on both sides of the football. And I like the Eagles' trench warfare better on both sides of the football than I do Dallas. Dallas has had some injuries along the offensive line. Now we can see more of Jason Peters than I think Dallas wants us to see of him in a game like this today. Defensively, the Eagles can attack you in so many different ways, especially getting to the quarterback. Dallas's defensive success is predicated on them getting to the quarterback, putting pressure on the quarterback. But if the Eagles can establish their running game against that D-line, you neutralize that pass rush. If you bust them in the mouth between the tackles, you handcuff them. They can't get after the quarterback like they want to get after Gardner Minshew in this game today. The big question is, which Dak will show up? Now, we'll let you in on this little stat here. As bad as Dak is reeling, and Seth will attest to this, sometimes certain players, certain teams just shine against certain players and certain teams. Dak Prescott has 7 interceptions in his last 4 games. But in his last 2 games against the Philadelphia Eagles, he has 8 touchdown passes and no interceptions. All right, so for whatever reason, he plays well against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, as for Gardner Minshew, I look at Gardner Minshew, and here's the way I put him. He is auditioning. He's a free agent after this season. He's auditioning for 31 other teams, maybe 32 other teams, depending on how the Eagles see him fitting into their future. So this is a big moment on a big stage for Gardner Minshew as well. So when it comes to which way am I leaning right now I have to say I can't say anything.
Oh, now that's a cliffhanger. You're not showing your cards even a little bit as far as that goes. Gunnar, I do want to keep it with you here because the severity of Jalen Hurts' injury is still very much a question. So I want to make sure we address this in the opening segment today. Originally, it thought maybe it was just gamesmanship that the Eagles are doing this. Maybe he'll even play on Saturday against the Cowboys. They're just keeping their cards close to their vest as well. But as this has gone on, it might be a little bit more serious to the point where he might miss next week's game against the Saints. When asked about it earlier in the week, Nick Sirianni didn't want to give any further information other than it looks like Gardner Minshew is going to make the start on Saturday against the Cowboys, obviously meeting today. Gunnar, what have you heard as to the severity of this injury from Jalen Hurts?
Well, as I told you guys last week, the report I was getting was he was going to miss 1, and they were 50-50 on whether or not he would miss a second game. Now I'm starting to see reports trickle out that there's a possibility he's going to miss that Saints game as well. And as I told you guys, and as I've told other people on my different platforms like Sports Take, right here in the JAKIB Sports Media Machine, I felt that if he misses 2 games in a row, then that tells me it could be something just a little bit more than just a sprained shoulder. Because let's say they wrap it up and you let him sit out. Are you going to bring him back for the last meaningless game of the season against the Giants? No. So that means technically he could be sitting out 4 or 5 weeks without playing. Now, from what I know about a Jalen Hurts, I don't think it'll take him long to get back in the saddle and get it going. But there could be some rust when you start playing that first playoff game if you've sat 4 or 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, lo and behold, if they mess around and lose this game today and by the wildest stretch of imagination somehow lost that game to the Saints, now it makes that game against the Giants that much more meaningful, which means you have to play him anyway. So my concern, Seth, and you've dealt with shoulder injuries, and I've talked to a number of former players about shoulder injuries, and, you know, they're so tricky. You know, they feel good one day, and all of a sudden you make a sudden move the next day. So, and I'm not here to start a rumor, but you missed 2 games in a row, especially at this strategic spot. You're better to be safe than sorry, especially when you need them in a bigger game. But what's the bigger concern with that shoulder?
Well, the bigger concern is the long-term prognosis, you know, for Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's positioned himself to be the franchise quarterback, and you've got to think about the next 5 to 10 years if you're going to make him that franchise quarterback. Now, I disagree with you. I don't think that, you know, I don't think he can afford to sit out 5 weeks and then go into the playoffs, go into the divisional round.
I don't either.
And be able to knock off, you know, any rust. At the other end of the spectrum, I don't think it's as bad. I don't think it's as bad as you know, the reports are making it out to be. What I believe is that, because if it was that bad, Gunner, you know, when they got like 2/3 through the third quarter last week, he would have came out the game then. Some of his best plays and best throws were in the fourth quarter. That hit happened, you know, in the third quarter. Now, you can call it adrenaline. You can say maybe it was the cold that maybe, you know, allowed him to stay in the game. But I just don't believe that it is as serious as everyone is speculating it to be. Because if that was the case, I think he would have came out of the game a lot early. He would not have finished the football game. Now, did he probably have some uncomfortability? Yes. I think the Eagles right now are erring on the side of caution when it comes to Jalen Hurts, and I fully expect for him next week to be up, live, and ready to go against the New Orleans Saints. No matter what these reports that are creeping out and seeping out seem to be. At the other end of the spectrum, you know, people can talk about conspiracy theories and all those types of things. You know, in my opinion, the NFL does not want Jalen Hurts to be the NFL MVP. And I think the longer he stays out, the more likely it's going to be that he's not going to get it. Like if Patrick Mahomes has a hell of a day today, he's not going to be able to circumvent that just off of that one game. Because, you know, you go back to Carson Wentz when he got injured, you know, he was clearly the front runner. And I don't think 3 games really made that much of a difference when you look at, you know, the amount of wins and the amount of productivity that he put up in contrast, you know, to I forget, was it Tom Brady that won it or Aaron Rodgers, whoever it was that actually won it. I think that he was a clear-cut MVP, even with 3 games to go. But to your point, Gunner, it's a popularity deal. Yep. You know, Andy Reid has already put it out there. You know, if anybody else besides, you know, Patrick Mahomes, well, come on, Andy, you guys already got 4 losses. The Eagles only got 1 under the helm of Jalen Hurts. And when you consider 22 passing touchdowns, or maybe even more, 12 rushing touchdowns, 2 wide receivers. After today, I expect for Devontae Smith to go over 1,000 yards, 2,000-yard receivers, a 1,000-yard running back behind you. Yeah, he's got all of those behind him. But, you know, the MVP, in my opinion, comes down to how valuable that player is to the success of his team. That team has been ultra successful with only having 1 loss, okay? And in my mind, he's the runaway winner. But I think that this injury affects that. And if the NFL didn't want him to win it, and that's what I believe, this plays right into, their hands and what they want to do.
Let me just unpack that for a second. So why wouldn't they want? Is it just because they're in love with somebody else already, like Patrick Mahomes? Is that why they wouldn't want Jalen Hurts to win it, or they have something against Philadelphia? What do you think it is?
I think it's a combination of things. I believe that there's some biases against Philadelphia, the city, the team, the fans, the media, all of that. I believe that Patrick Mahomes in their eyes is the face of the NFL, if you will. And I've always said this, I believe it to be true. When you look at, guys that are not drafted in the top 10, they want those guys to shine in this league. They want those guys to be the face because it makes GMs, head coaches, organizations look extremely intelligent in what they've done. Okay. For Jalen Hurts to accomplish what he's accomplished, think about all the quarterbacks that got drafted in front of him. For him to last to the second round, to the 53rd overall pick, and now he's outperforming all of those guys that were picked in front of him and on the cusp of taking his team to a Super Bowl, that doesn't look good, for the brain trust of those people who evaluate players in the NFL. It's the same thing with the Pro Bowl. Most of the time, if you're a first-round guy, guess what? All you got to do is play halfway decent, and they're going to make a big deal about it. Okay. If you're a guy that was drafted in later rounds, guess what they're trying to do? They want you to prove it that, what you did this year, you can do it again, that you're an MVP. Why should I have to prove it when my numbers say and speak to the fact that I'm worthy of MVP or Defensive Player of the Year or NFL, Offensive Player of the Year, whatever it is. If you're worthy of it, you're worthy of it. This is where I have a problem with the NFL and their whole meritocracy thing, because it should be all about the merits of what you produce and what you put on the field this year. And Jalen Hurts is the most important piece to this football team. If it's a quarterback-driven league, then he deserves to be the MVP.
Gotcha. Gunnar, you've covered these guys for a long time. Is it that hard for them to admit when they're wrong?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. People, you have to understand, especially when it comes to the voting committees, you have a lot of old school type voters, the old crusty writers, and they're set in their ways and they're not going to change any way, shape, or form. So if there is a faction out there that has a definitive dislike against Philadelphia, that's going to carry a lot of weight when it comes to that voting again. Seth talks about Patrick Mahomes being the poster child of the NFL. I'll carry it one step further. The two darlings of the NFL are Josh Allen, the Buffalo, and Patrick Mahomes. There's no question about it. All we hear about is the wow factors behind these two, even when they have bad games. Well, both of them have 3 losses, but you look at Patrick Mahomes, who's playing right now, he just threw 2 more touchdown passes, so he is 36 and 37 now. So Jalen Hurts is sitting idle today. Patrick Mahomes is continuously padding his stats. Josh Allen will continuously padding the stats. Jalen Hurts was fighting at a disadvantage from the get-go because of the uniform he wears in the city he plays professional football for. Mm-hmm. I've said this for weeks, time and time again. Having covered this game for over 4 decades, I've talked to writers coast to coast, and for whatever reason, there's this outside disdain for Philadelphia and Philadelphia sports teams, and we see it time and time again. And I am not going to be shocked one iota, even if Jalen were to play every game this season and continue on the course of what he has done up to this point, there's no question in my mind he is the hands-on favorite to win the MVP. But if he didn't win it, I wouldn't be surprised one bit because of what I know about the national perspective on the outside looking in.
All right. Now, we are having a little bit of a joke played on us here because we just went through a week which was actually Bears week. It was like a preemptive Cowboys week because Micah Parsons was distracting us with his comments made by Von Miller, or made to Von Miller on the Von Miller Voncast. And everything that Micah Parsons said, was it Jalen Hurts or was it the team? Is it the scheme or is it Jalen Hurts? Well, it's almost like after a week of saying Micah Parsons is an idiot, we still want the Eagles to win this game and lock up home field advantage, but we also still want Jalen Hurts to win an MVP award and have it all. So are we almost contradicting ourselves a little bit, or can both things be true, where Jalen Hurts can still be the guy that makes everybody else go on this team, Or are we actually rooting for Gardner Minshew to almost lose this game for the Eagles just to prove our point beyond just the fact that Jalen Hurts should be the MVP? Gunnar, I'll start with you. Was Micah Parsons right? Is their job today to prove him right? Or is their job today simply to go out there and just do the best they can, even though they're not expected to win as a 4.5-point underdog?
First of all, let me say this. Jalen Hurts doesn't care one iota whether he wins the MVP or not. The only thing he cares about is hoisting that Lombardi trophy. You cannot just put anybody in this Eagles offensive system the way we've watched it this year and expect it to flourish the way it has with a Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a special athlete, okay? Now, we had a lot of question marks about how significant would he improve from last year to this year. All the boxes have been checked. We've talked about that time and time again. This young man has performed well beyond his 24, 25 years of age, okay? But it is because of Jalen Hurts this offensive machine has rolled the way it has. His ability to run at RPOs, to throw the ball, to escape, to make his offense that much better, to give a defense one other element to worry about, not just his passing ability, but his ability to take off and beat you big with his legs as well. So Jalen Hurts, this team is going to miss him today, but as Seth said off the top of this pregame show, this is the most complete team in the National Football League. If there is a team that can overcome a starting quarterback being out and going down to Dallas and beating the you-know-what out of the Dallas Cowboys without Jalen Hurts, it is this Philadelphia Eagles team.
Gotcha. Seth, is Micah Parsons going to be right today that it is the team as the star of the show, or will they greatly miss Jalen Hurts today?
Well, listen, I think that Micah Parsons' comments are pretty idiotic. I believe that, there's not a quarterback in the NFL that's not a system quarterback, because guess what? When you determine who your quarterback is, now you build a system around his skill set so that he can be successful and he can make everybody else around him successful. So this whole, system quarterback thing is a bunch of BS. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I expect for the Eagles to win today, and I expect for them to win because they are a complete team, okay? They're going to have to do it differently because, they had Micah Parsons, in a state of conflict all the second half of all last game. Well, listen, they're not going to be able to do that today, even if they get him there, because Gardner Minshew isn't the type of guy that's going to take off and run with the football. So they're going to have to establish their running game through Miles Sanders and Boston Scott and Kenneth Gainwell. They're going to have to establish their running game there, and then they're going to have to go play action pass because that's what Gardner Minshew does. They're going to have to win on first down, okay? They're going to have to make sure they're getting 4 to 5 yards on first down so that second and third down is much more manageable. If they get behind the chains and Gardner Minshew's got to stand in that pocket, now they're going to have problems. But I expect for this team to win because Gardner he's a gamer, for one. He throws the ball on time and on rhythm, even so much more than Jalen Hurts does. And that's not a knock on Jalen Hurts per se. That's just a strength of what he does. Jalen Hurts is just a different animal because when he's not under pressure, he can do that as well. But he can also make something happen when everything else falls apart. Gardner Minshew is going to have to play extremely smart today. When things don't work out the way that you drew it up, you're going to have to get outside the tackle box and throw it away. You're going to have to take a sack here or there. You're going to have to be ready to throw that ball at the running back's feet, in a screen situation when they decipher it and they read it and they take it away. He's just going to have to play smart, mistake-free, turnover-free football. And if he can do that, listen, our defense will take care of the rest. Our offense will continue to prosper the way that it has. And the special teams has to step up and make sure that they take care of field position today in a way where we're talking about them as part of the solution opposed to being part of the problem why the Eagles couldn't get it done today.
Seth, here's what I want to say. We're going to bring in John McMullen in a second, but here's why I still think Micah Parsons is wrong and the Eagles can still win this week. Here's why I think Micah Parsons is wrong. Here's why both things can be true. With Jalen Hurts as your quarterback late in the fourth quarter in a close game and the Eagles trailing, I still feel like the Eagles are going to come back and win that game. That's what an MVP caliber quarterback does. What Gardner Minshew makes me believe in this game, regardless of how well he plays, whether he plays the game manager role or, as Nick Foles used to call it, out that point guard role of being able to distribute to Devontae Smith, being able to distribute to A.J. Brown and use Miles Sanders probably, and Dallas Goedert, by the way, being back into this game today. That's all going to be great, and as long as he plays that mistake-free football, they're going to be fine. But it goes from the quarterback play, for me, for my focus, to how well this defense can play against a guy who's been a turnover machine as of late in Dak Prescott. And you guys referenced it earlier, but just to give the numbers with Dak Prescott and what he has done since week 7 when he came back from his thumb injury, Dak Prescott, this is insane. Leads the NFL in interceptions with 10. That's the most in that span. Has the highest interception percentage in the NFL at 4%, and most multi-interception games with 4 since coming back. So that's something that the, by the way, turnover forcing leading Eagles defense will take full advantage of today. Let's bring in our NFL Insider, brought to you by Thrive Financial Services. Our good friend John McMullen joins us from Birds 365, NFL Insider for JAKIB Media. Thrive Financial Services. Get Thrive Financial Services and get their retirement playbook. Go to thrivefinancialservices.com. John, welcome in. What's your confidence level going in for the Eagles to be able to beat the Cowboys on a day like today without Jalen Hurts?
I thought this was going to be a difficult game, guys, with Jalen Hurts. So, I think it's going to be a difficult game. I remember going back to the schedule release, and I looked at this spot and saying, okay, Dallas on Christmas Eve. And, oh, by the way, it's the 3rd consecutive road game. I just thought that was an awful spot logically. Of course, I didn't know the Eagles were going to be 13-1 at the time. I didn't know they were going to be this phenomenal team. So, obviously, the confidence has grown, but yeah, I mean, this is the potential MVP you're losing, so I don't think it should be undersold. I'm like most people. I think Gardner Minshew's one of the better backups in this league, but it's a significant downgrade from Jalen Hurts. So, the Cowboys are having their own problems, though. I mean, ever since they lost, it's funny how you lose one player and it can have such an impact on your team. And it doesn't even have to be a star player. In the Cowboys case, it was Anthony Brown, who was their second corner to Trayvon Diggs from a talent perspective, from a playmaking perspective. But you need 2 cornerbacks. We see how good it is here in Philadelphia with Slay and Bradbury. You lose that one guy, and all of a sudden Dallas had been one of the best defenses right there with the Eagles, right there with San Francisco. They fall apart. They haven't been able to replace that. So, they kind of know down there they're locked into the number 5 seed no matter what. The Eagles are like 98% to win the division. If you look at 538.com, they're 97% to get the 1st seed. So the Cowboys kind of know they're locked into the 5th seed. But they want to get right getting into the postseason because they're going to have a good opportunity in that first game because they're going to face the NFC South champions. And that's not going to be a good football team. So they're going to have an opportunity. They want to get right. The Eagles obviously want to clinch the division, clinch the number 1 seed. I just think it's going to be a really close game.
Mm-hmm. Hey, John, I'm surprised. First of all, you're not down in Dallas, man, and enjoying the ambiance.
Yeah. First one in 3 years. So happy holidays, by the way. I should have said that coming in.
Happy holidays.
Same to you as well. All right, I'm going to put you in the coach's chair. Give me your strategy of how you would implement Gardner Minshew initially in front of the national audience, a hostile environment, the magnitude of the game, just to get him in a rhythm early on.
Well, you got to do what Gardner does well. And what does Gardner do well? He makes quick decisions. He gets the football out of his hand. He's a really fast processor. He's doesn't have the great arm strength, but he's a good, accurate, intermediate thrower. And I think if you go back to that Jets game last year, who was it? It was Gardner Minshew and it was Dallas Goedert. So it's good that you're getting Dallas back after missing 5 games. Those big bodies, and A.J. Brown as well, on the slant routes more than the go routes is going to be big for Gardner Minshew. To have 2 big bodies in the middle of the field, I think that helps him. You got to do what he does well, and that's what he does well. And the second thing is, and I heard Seth talking about, and that's what the Eagles constantly said about Micah Parsons in week 6. If you can't block him, read him, put him in conflict. And they were able to do that pretty successfully. Well, they can't read him this week. I mean, they could do it occasionally. Gardner's got some mobility, but he's not going to brighten anybody from that standpoint. So you got to block him. And if anybody can do it, it's the Eagles, because you have Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, but they'll move him all over. They'll put him inside. They'll put him outside. And you got to block him. And we'll see if they can. I know Eagles fans want him to be able to block Micah Parsons, but it's easier said than done.
John, I for some reason or another, I do not. My worry is not on the offensive side of the ball. I think that Gardner Minshew will step in as a well-bodied and able backup today and just manage the football game. What worries me is that the Philadelphia Eagles defense is ranked 19th. No, that's not right. They are ranked 24th against the run. They're giving up 100.
Eagles are 19th. You were right. Eagles are 19th against the run. I think Dallas is 24th.
Yes. So they're giving up 100. They're giving up 121 yards a game, and given Dak's struggles, I think a couple of years ago, maybe last year, Dak had that big year. It was last year, right before he hurt his ankle, and the year before when his numbers were just off the charts. And I think at that point, they kind of made the decision to shift from a running offense and Dak going play action pass to just Dak, here, take the ball and do what you got to do, because they felt like he had evolved to that point. Now with his struggles over the last so many games, they're in a situation where they're going to have to go back to their running game if they're going to have success, because, again, there's got to be some residual confidence issues as far as Dak is concerned, given the way he's played. And how do you fix that? You fix it by going play action pass and establishing your run game. Now, the Eagles, on offense, they're averaging 20, 29 points a game, almost 30 points a game. That makes playing defense a lot easier. But if they can't get a lead where they can really thrive from a defensive line standpoint, then everything being equal, you got the run game, and you got Tony Pollard, and you got Ezekiel Elliott. And to me, I get the sense that they're going to come out and pound the hell out of the ball and go play action pass when they need to throw the ball. And the Eagles are going to have to step up and get that rectified in ways that they had to over the last couple of weeks. That means dropping an extra guy in the box. When you do that, that means that, hey, you're a little light on the back end. And what does that mean as far as your pass defense is concerned?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, you talk about Dallas and how they've shifted. You remember when they went back and they became a pass-heavy team, they had not only CeeDee Lamb, but Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup before the injury. So they no longer have Cooper. Gallup hasn't been the same coming back from the ACL, so they're not as explosive. What they do have is a developing Tony Pollard. So you kind of go in that direction. So you add him to Ezekiel Elliott, and all of a sudden you have a good running game. I think the bottom line with these two teams, you could make a strong argument that these are the two best teams in the NFC. Now, I would argue that probably San Francisco deserves that a little bit more. But these are two really good football teams. They really are. And I know the Eagles fans don't want to hear that necessarily about the Cowboys, but you talk about their points per game, Seth. The Eagles 29.4, they're second in the NFL. Well, guess who's third? Dallas 28.1. Mm-hmm. You talk about Mark, you talked about the Eagles' ability to generate turnovers. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? The Cowboys generate more turnovers than the Eagles.
That's right.
Now the Eagles take care of the football more, so they have the best ratio, plus 12. But Cowboys are second in plus 9. And Trayvon Diggs has sort of been an Eagles killer. He's had 4 interceptions against the Eagles in his young career. These are two really good football teams. And the Eagles don't have Jalen Hurts. In a lot of ways, a lot of Eagles fans, not everybody. I hate to put everybody in the same thing. They're proving what Micah Parsons said is true. And I don't even think that Micah Parsons said anything that disrespectful. He's just pointing out how good the Eagles supporting cast is, which it is. I mean, I've been joking all week. You always say in the NFL, it's a cliche, you can't have an all-star at every position. Well, the Eagles almost did on offense. They almost pulled it off. I mean, if you look at their 11 personnel, which is their base offense, Quez Watkins, that's it. Everybody else was a Pro Bowler or a Pro Bowl alternate. I should correct myself. Dallas Goedert wasn't, but we know why Dallas Goedert wasn't, because he missed 5 games. If he doesn't miss those 5 games, it's George Kittle and Dallas Goedert in the Pro Bowl, not TJ Hawkinson. So everybody on this offense is a Pro Bowl selection or a Pro Bowl alternate. It is really, really, really good. And oh, by the way, the defense is higher ranked than the offense, at least when compared against other teams. So from 1 through 53, the Eagles are the best team in the NFL. I don't think there's any question about it. 17 players. And again, that doesn't include Dallas Goedert and CJ Gardner-Johnson. So really 19 players. 19. Think about that. That I don't know if that's a record, but it's damn close.
Yeah.
That's how good this team is. And even all that said, Jalen Hurts is the key to it all.
Yep.
And I don't think that's where I don't think the respect is given to Jalen Hurts. That's a big deal.
Yeah,
I'd like Gardner Minshew as well, but that's a big deal.
All right, without Jalen Hurts today, then, and before we get your official prediction, John, for today's game, I want to ask you, if the Eagles do win today, who will be the star of the show? And then go ahead and give me your prediction, which I think we're not going to like. But anyway, just go ahead and give me your star of the game if the Eagles do win this, and then your official prediction.
If they do win it, I think it's going to be Dallas Goedert, similar to last year with the Jets. You have the 2-touchdown game, over 100 yards. That's what Gardner does. Intermediate routes, accurate, get the football out of his hands. Dallas Goedert will have an opportunity to have a big game. If they do win it, I don't think they're going to win it. But I think it's going to be really, really close. I have the Cowboys winning 23-21. So it might be a Brett Maher 55-yard field goal at the end of the game. It's going to be really close.
That'll be a Grinch of a shot right there from Maher after with that game, unfortunately. John, great catching up with you as always. Happy holidays to you. Hope you're able to enjoy the game somewhat. I know the guys will be checking in with you guys not only at halftime, of course, with Devin Caney, but on the JAKIB Media post-game show as well. John, thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. John McMullen joining us from Birds 365, NFL insider for JAKIB Media as well. Guys, before we hit the break, Gunnar, I'll ask you this first. If the Eagles do, in fact, win this game, and the three of us did state that we are pretty confident that they will, who do you think is the standout star? Who do you think is the guy that steals the show away without Jalen Hurts being here?
I'm going to go with Miles Sanders. I think this is a tailor-made game for Miles Sanders to run amok against the Dallas defense. If there's one big Achilles heel on this Dallas defense, it has been the inability to stop the run. For as talented as this defense is, John is right. You know, I know Philadelphia fans don't want to hear this, but Dallas has a lot of talent on their football team down there and on the defense as well. But they have been so porous against the run, it has cost them in so many ways this season. So I think this is a tailor-made game for Miles Sanders to have at least $140, $150 on the ground today.
All right, Miles Sanders. All right, Seth, what do you got?
I think that there is a connection between Gardner Minshew and Dallas Goedert that we haven't paid attention to. He will look to him because he knows that Dallas is uncoverable in the short to intermediate game. There's not a linebacker in the league that can cover Dallas, and there's not a safety in the league to cover him. Anytime that Dallas wants to get into a man situation or a blitz situation where Gardner Minshew can pre-snap read it, Dallas Goedert is going to be the guy that he goes to. And this coaching staff's, history, like last week, you go in and you're playing against the 27th ranked run defense team, you come out throwing the ball all over the yard. What's to make us to believe that Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen are going to do anything different this week? Of course, the common sense thing would be to come out and establish the run against the 19th ranked, rush defense, the 21st, the 17th. Let me get it right. The 7th the 24th ranked. Gosh,
they are the 8th worst rushing defense in the NFL.
But I'm just saying, it's the common sense thing would be to come out and impose your will on them. Correct?
Sure.
They've done the complete opposite all year long. So what makes us think they're going to do that? So they come out and they're just going to start throwing the ball. I think that Gardner Minshew is going to want to get the ball out of his hands. He's going to run some RPOs, yes, but I also think that Dallas Goedert is going to play a big part, in the passing game and how he gets the ball out of his hand quick, fast, in a hurry.
Yeah, for this game, gentlemen, I am all about the defense. Like I said earlier, if Jalen Hurts is here, I always think the Eagles have a chance to win if Jalen Hurts is your starting quarterback. This game is going to make me focus on the defense, and for that reason, I think Hassan Reddick is going to be the star of the show today. I think he's licking his chops to play against this Eagles offensive line, which is not nearly as good an offensive line as we're used to seeing come out of Dallas, and I think he is going to eat today, and he's going to get a strip sack that will result in an Eagles touchdown. So I see the Eagles defense coming up with a score today, and I think they'll be the star of the show, led by Hassan Reddick. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, Gunner, you hit the nail on the head, I feel, with Miles Sanders. But, Seth, something was said this week by your head coach, Nick Sirianni, that literally made me laugh out loud at the press conference. I think you'll enjoy it. When we come back, I'll tell you what Nick Sirianni had to say. And also, we'll talk about another key to victory for the Eagles against the Cowboys today on this Christmas Eve edition of the JAKIB Media Pregame Show.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on that. Can you
search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today?
Philadelphia fans, we're cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Number 1, Jeff D'Ambrosio. Destination Downingtown is rolling back prices for a December to remember. For a limited time, you can own, not lease, brand new 2023 Jeep Wranglers for only $30,995 or $339 per month. New Rams starting at only $30,995 or new Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cabs $189 per month. Zero down can deliver. Get the price you want, the selection you need, and the VIP treatment you deserve. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Big Finish Sales Event.
Welcome back to the JAKIB Media Pregame Show ahead of Eagles Cowboys, brought to you by Thrive Financial Services. Marc Farzetta, Derek Gunn, Seth Joyner. Seth, I'm not kidding you. Very rarely do I gain humor from press conferences, but usually they're pretty boring and dull and bland and drab and all that fun stuff. But Gunner, when you said Miles Sanders, it reminded me of what Nick Sirianni said when he was asked the question about protecting Jalen Hurts with, wait for it, more running plays. And Seth, I know you and I have been in agreement when talking about the idea of how about handing the ball on a called run play to your running back, old school style, line up under center, drop back, single back, hand the ball to him, and he runs it. And Nick Sirianni actually said, Seth, he looked into the camera and he said, yeah, actually we need to do a little bit more of that. Like it was some novel brainiac type thing of, yeah, maybe I should give the football to the fifth leading rusher in the NFL, and maybe that would protect my quarterback a little bit more often. Do you think today, first off, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. And second, do you think they'll actually do it today now that they won't have Jalen Hurts under center?
Just, you think that, it'll just be a novel idea to think about that. Listen, I've always said you protect your quarterback one or two ways. You protect him with great line play is what they have, but you also protect them with a great running game so that when you want to and need to throw the ball, the opportunities are there because they always have to respect the fact that you're running the ball all over them. But when you come out, you're just throwing it all over the map. You're basically telling them, you're making yourself one-dimensional, and you're telling the defensive coordinator how to call the game to beat you. Makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to anybody unless they're trying to break some keys or something. That's the only logic that I can see. But you do that for a span, and then you go back to it. You go back to, throwing the ball. After you've established some bit of running, even if you don't have success with it, you still got to make the defense believe that you're going to do that. I don't think he has any other choice today but to put Gardner Minshew in a situation where you do establish the run, or else you're asking for trouble.
Yeah.
Listen, I think that our offensive line stands up well against any defensive front in the NFL. But if you're one-dimensional and you allow guys to pin their ears back, then they're going to get some pressure, and Dan Quinn has evolved, his mode of operation as far as defensive play calling is concerned. He was just a straight cover three guy with not a whole lot of blitzing. I mean, he'll bring people from all over the place. He had to evolve in order to stay in the game, and he's done just that. The last thing about the run game, though, is everyone complained last week about Jalen Hurts running the football. What you got to understand is, to your point, if you don't have a called run play, okay, and you put your quarterback in a position where he's running the RPO, every single time you call that, there's an opportunity that your quarterback may take off with the ball and run it. Now, if you want to establish a running game with your running back, then you just line Jalen or Gardner up under center. You go 12 personnel, one back, two tight ends, or 13 personnel, dare I say, bring in another tight end, and you line up and you turn around and you hand the ball to him. Now, you can still get to some of those things out of your RPO look or out of your shotgun look, But to your point, you have to call running plays where there's no ambiguity for your offensive line. They know that we're just going to fire off and mash the guy in front of you, whatever the blocking scheme is, and that's how we're going to get it done. But every time that you call that RPO, there's an opportunity that Jalen may keep that football, okay? So where you might not look for him to keep it, the defense is dictating that he keeps it based upon his read, and that gets you to 17 carries in the football game rather than maybe 5 or 6.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, Gunnar, are you confident, though, that he will get the opportunity, Miles Sanders, in a day without Jalen Hurts? Do you think he'll get that opportunity to have a big game and help carry this Eagles offense?
Basic common sense tells you when you have another quarterback coming in, even though he's a proven veteran, he hasn't played that much. He played one game last year. He hasn't played it all this year. You have to get him in a comfort zone, a rhythm. You look at some coaches like an Andy Reid, they like to do it with the short passing game when you bring in a new quarterback to get him in a rhythm. There are other coaches that like to have an established running game to get that quarterback in a rhythm and go off the play action off the running game if the running game is established. With this Eagles offense, they're so unpredictable, we don't know what to expect. I mean, how else can you explain that your 1,000-yard rusher doesn't touch the football until 6:28 in the first quarter last week against the Chicago Bears defense that was also porous against the run? So we don't know what they're thinking right now. When you look at not just the Eagles, but look across the National Football League this year, this has been one of the most unpredictable seasons I have seen in quite some time. And then you look up and down the scoreboard today, and it's a testament to that. As we sit here, did you think the Giants would be playing the Vikings 10-10 even in the third quarter of a game? Did you think the Carolina Panthers would have over 265 yards rushing in less than 3 quarters against the Detroit Lions team that everybody's picking to get in the back door to playoffs? But that has become the norm. So when it comes to trying to break down everything that we think we know about what the Eagles could and should do, there's going to be something we're not going to account for. And the one thing we haven't even talked about is this Dallas team bringing in T.Y. Hilton off the street. You know, this dude hasn't played. He's 33 years old, but he can still stretch the field. He has that rare trait, not as fast as a Deshaun Jackson, but he has that straight ahead speed. You've got to account from him now. Dallas signed him almost 2 weeks ago. They waited until today to try to debut him. How are they going to try to implement him in the offense to take heat off Dak, heat off CeeDee Lamb, heat off Michael Gallup, Noah Brown, so on and so forth, Dalton Schultz, so on and so forth? It's going to be a fascinating game because of the storylines that we haven't even thought about yet.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, just on the flip side of things, with the Eagles trying to defend against that, I look at the other side of it when I think about the Cowboys trying to defend against this receiving core of the Eagles. Just a stat to give on that number right now, when you talk about guys like Trayvon Diggs, for instance, the Eagles right now are facing a defense today that allow a 96 passer rating when defending against wide receivers. So that just reminds me of something that could go in the favor of Gardner Minshew and Devontae Smith, as well as A.J. Brown. And maybe with this Eagles defense stepping up today against a bad trend for Dak Prescott, as we talked about the interceptions that he's been throwing. I do want to ask this question, and more of a fact or fiction type of way of asking the question. Fact or fiction, whoever wants to take this first, by all means. When a backup quarterback is in there, even if it's one that you might respect, like a guy like Gardner Minshew, people still thinking can be a starter maybe for some other teams in the NFL. Not great teams, but a couple teams. Fact or fiction that the backup quarterback being in there makes everybody else, I don't want to use the word press, but try to raise their game a little bit higher than what it was to almost attempt to make up for losing a guy that's an MVP caliber player right now. No one can argue that. Whether or not he's the MVP, I think he is. But Seth or Gunnar, is there a step-up factor here? Fact or fiction when a backup quarterback is in there where everyone has to be on high alert, similar to the way the Cowboys defense played well with Cooper Rush as their starting quarterback? Fact or fiction, everybody else raises their game when you lose a key cog in the wheel like Jalen Hurts?
I think it's a fact, because of what they realize, what the rest of these guys are going to realize. And I'm just talking about the Eagles in this instance. What they realize that they're missing with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts can make a good call that went bad work out. Okay. Jalen Hurts can, affect the game with his legs, not only running it, but escaping the pocket and making plays outside of the pocket, throwing the ball down the field or running. I just believe that Miles Sanders is going to look at this game and know that he's got to have another big day. I just know that this offensive line is going to realize that Gardner Minshew doesn't have the escapability of one Jalen Hurts. So in pass protection, we might have to hold it a second longer. The wide receivers know that they've got to, always be in favorable, second and third down situations. So when they catch the ball, it's not so much that you catch the ball and you run out of bounds, or you catch the ball and you get down. You got to fight for every extra yard that you can get that puts you in a more favorable position to be able to capitalize on second and third down as well. So I say, yes, everyone has to raise their level. Even over on the defensive side of the ball, you understand and you realize that you have to raise your level. On the special teams, you need to raise your level because you're trying to put this backup quarterback who doesn't play that much in the most favorable position to succeed as you possibly can.
Gunnar, you've covered these guys in the past, from A.J. Feely, Coy Detmer, Jeff Garcia being another one. It seems like everyone else raises their game when they feel like they really have to when you miss a key cog in the wheel.
When the quarterbacks that you mentioned, why were they able to raise their games? Because of the talent pool around them. I agree with the term and the notion fact, but in this case, fact based on the fact that this team is so deep and talented on both sides of the football. If they play their game, if this quarterback just manages the game, their success margin is much greater than if it's another backup quarterback, like some of the backups we've seen across the National Football League over the last couple of years that basically should not even be in the National Football League in a lot of cases. But because you don't have 32 legit starting quarterbacks in the National Football League and everybody has at least two backups, you have roughly 99 quarterbacks in the National Football League that are playing, and only maybe 35% of them deserve to start or even play in the National Football League. So I think in this case, Gardner Minshew, if he goes out and plays this game, if he plays a game similar to what we saw him play against the Jets last year, it will be fine. It will be fine.
I will say this. I don't think that now there's a big difference between trying to do too much and trying to do a little bit extra. Okay. Yep. So I think that, this team will understand that you don't have to go that far out of the realm of what your responsibilities are, but it just takes just a little more effort to be able to make up for what you're going to lose without having Jalen Hurts on the football field. So, to Derek's point, listen, this offense, this team is supremely positioned to just handle their business, and them handling their business, even with Gardner Minshew, should be enough. Okay. But it's just an innate thing from a defensive perspective for this defense to look on the other side and realize what they're losing and innately say to themselves or amongst themselves, okay, we need to create some turnovers today. We need some 3 and outs. We need to, win the field position, game as far as making them punt the ball when they're deep in their own territory so we can get the ball at midfield, and the special teams realizing that we got to do our part. I think it's just an innate thing that's inside of you to realize that, there's some compensations that we have to make, but let's not go, willy-nilly here. Let's not go off the ranch here. Just do your job, and doing your job should be good enough, but do your job just slightly better.
Mark, one of the biggest things I'm looking forward to seeing answered initially in this game, especially in the first half, is who is Gardner Minshew's go-to guy in the passing game? Now, we know with Jalen Hurts it's A.J. Brown because of their history, but Gardner Minshew doesn't have those game reps with those wide receivers. So if he's not on the right, if he's not in sync with A.J. running those quick slant routes, is it Devontae Smith? Is it Dallas Goedert? Who's it? Linus has his safety blanket. Who is Gardner Minshew's safety blanket in this game today? That's one of the big things I'm interested in seeing.
I think in the running game, I think that the running backs are his safety blankets. I saw a quote this week, the first day of practice, that Gardner Minshew, not one single ball hit the ground. Now that struck me. That struck me big time, because when you're in with a bunch of guys that you get very little, practice time with, and you're going through the paces of the practice, and you can go a full practice and not miss one single throw. Come on, man. I mean, that tells me that there's some synchronicity there. But to your point, you're talking about the safety valve. The one thing that Jalen doesn't like to do that often is he doesn't like to check the ball down. He wants that ball to go to A.J. Brown, or he wants that ball to go, to Devontae Smith. I think that Gardner Minshew knows that, A, he can't force the ball, and B, that when his time is running out, he's got a safety valve. And I think that you're going to see these running backs get a lot of checkdowns today for 4, 5, 6 yards to help put them, in manageable situations, especially when they throw the ball on first down. He's going to survey the field. If there's nothing there, check it down.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Seth, real quick, that was synchronicity? I just want to make sure I get that for next week's show.
Yeah, synchronicity.
Synchronicity.
Baby.
Okay, just make
synchronicity.
All right.
Seth, spell it for me. I can't. I want you to spell it. I can't spell it.
Hey, listen, I'm a master speller now.
Good, man. Good for you, brother. Good for you.
You want me to spell it for you?
Ooh, by all means. Why not?
SYCRONICY. Synchronicity.
Country of origin? No. That was brilliant.
That's actually Latin. It's got its origins in Latin.
Well, look at this. The dinner and a show.
Sync meaning to bring together. Chronicity means your chronological order.
I am learning today. Real quick before we get our predictions.
I just pulled that out of my back pocket, right?
Well, if you did, you sold the hell out of it. Brilliant job by you.
Oh man!
All right. Now I asked you guys this when we had Halloween. Your favorite Halloween costumes. I'll go first to give you guys a second. Best Christmas gift you ever got from your childhood. What was it? I'll go first. I really got into Rocky. We didn't live in Philadelphia at the time, but I loved Rocky, and I begged my parents for a punching bag. I got an Everlast punching bag, an actual one, not like a kid's one, when I was 8 years old. I still have it to this day. It's still the best workout you could get. I got a punching bag as my Christmas gift. Gunner, what was your best Christmas gift as a kid?
I would have to say Rock'em Sock'em Robots. I couldn't wait to get those things. And when my parents shocked me and gave me those for Christmas, my brother and I think we busted one. I think I might have got one 2 years in a row because we played it so much we busted the first one.
That is as brothers do. Seth, best Christmas gift.
D-Gun stole mine, man. When I see him, listen, there are times when I'm like in the store and I'll see a Rock'em Sock'em Robot. You talking about bringing back some memories.
Wow. Yes.
My goodness. When you hit that bad boy up under the chin and that neck goes up, I'm like, oh, man, there was nothing like playing that game with my brother, man.
Wow.
And Seth, and here's the thing. Now that I have grandkids, I'm buying another one. I'm telling you that.
A tradition unlike any other. All right. Gunner, your prediction for Eagles Cowboys Christmas Eve edition.
This game has so many variables that we've talked about all week long. And I think it comes down to who turns the ball over the least. And Dallas has been a turnover machine the last few games, and it has cost them dearly. I don't like the situation the Eagles are in going down there without Jalen Hurts. I have a lot of confidence in Gardner Minshew. But I think because Dallas has been inconsistent in defending the run and inconsistent in holding on to the football, I think the Eagles are going to get a definitive turnover somewhere. I'm going to say Eagles win this game 23-21.
23-21, the same score as John McMullen. Seth, where are you at?
Listen, I think that the Eagles have enough on all sides in all three phases to win this football game. They are just the better roster. They're playing the better football right now. And I think the difference is going to be, Dak knows that he needs to cut down on these interceptions and these turnovers, which means that he's going to be a lot less likely to try to fit balls in these tight windows and take chances. So he's going to be going for the short throws rather than the throws, that takes a little bit of moxie about you to try them, because he's apprehensive about this whole turnover thing. if the Eagles can, dominate the clock through the running game and keep this game close, and I don't think that it's going to be one of those games where there's going to be a whole lot of points scored or somebody's going to jump out to a 2-touchdown lead. I think that this game is going to come down at the end. Now, John McMullen, like the Dallas, field goal kicker kicking a 50-something yarder. At the other end of the spectrum, Jake Elliott has been money all year long. I think Jake Elliott wins the game for the Philadelphia Eagles as time expires with a 45-yard field goal. The Eagles win 27-24.
27. We all got really close scores, and I'm right there close with you and Gunner and John McMullen. I said on a TV hit earlier in the week, I said on my show, I'm going to stick with the same score, which is actually 23-20 in favor of the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, they get a touchdown. I think it's going to be caused by a fumble on a strip sack, thanks to our friend Hassan Reddick. And I think at the end of this game, after he throws 2 touchdown passes in this game, I think Gardner Minshew is going to look at the camera and say, Philadelphia, Merry Christmas. And nothing will be better than the Eagles beating the Cowboys with their backup when the Cowboys couldn't do it with their backup earlier in the season. Guys, to you, I hope you have a wonderful post-game show. Merry Christmas to you guys, your family, everyone watching, everyone in our comments. Thank you. I'll be along for halftime with Devin Caney as well as John McMullen, live from my dad, Joe Farzetta's kitchen. We'll be making the smelts, the calamari. We'll be making everything for the 7 Fish, and I'll do the halftime hit from my father's kitchen, so make sure you guys don't miss that. Until then, go Birds, be well, Merry Christmas to all, celebrate happy holidays to everyone. Gentlemen, catch you guys next week.
Happy holidays.
Hi, everybody. My name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech, we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
My husband hadn't missed work in 15 years. His injury required months of rehabilitation, and unfortunately, the insurance company didn't see it that way. I was working 2 jobs, but it wasn't enough. One conversation with Pond Lehocky changed everything. We sat down, told him our story, and they guided us through the whole workers' compensation legal process.
Pond Lehocky, tell us your story.
Show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
Celebrating the life of your loved one is what we do at Life Celebrations by Givnish. When the matriarch of the Dalloway family died suddenly at 82 years old, Life Celebrations by Givnish stepped in.
They will make this the easiest thing that I know it's not easy, but they will make this as easy as possible.
Life Celebrations by Givnish, customizing services as unique as the individual.
I just know that my dad, who is in charge of everything, was not in charge of anything at that point when my mom passed. And again, just another shout out to this place for making it easy.
Turning tragedy into a celebration of life, no matter how hard, is what we do at Life Celebrations by Givnish. Life Celebrations by Givnish, customizing services as unique as the individual.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean.
Continue your communication sciences and disorders education at Salus University within the Doctor of Audiology or Masters of Science in Speech-Language Pathology programs. With state-of-the-art labs, on-campus clinics, and extensive externship opportunities, students position themselves to be at the top of the job market. Stand out in the audiology and speech-language pathology profession by visiting salus.edu.